Hey solo gamers, thanks for checking out How's It Play Solo. I'm Mac Kern, and today I'm taking a look at Friday, which is a one-player deck building game where you play as the character Friday trying to help Robinson Crusoe escape the island. I'm going to take a look at the rules and how the game plays, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my opinion of the game. Let's check it out. Friday is a deck building game where your goal is to use the cards in your deck to progress through 3 levels of trials, and after that, fight 2 randomly selected pirate ships. So there's a variety of these. They're randomly chosen at the beginning of the game. You've got your starter deck, you've got a deck of trials. You also have a deck of aging cards. These are added to your deck. Basically, when you've drawn all of the cards in your deck, when you reshuffle that deck, you add one of these cards there. And then you also have 20 health points, and those are represented by these little green pieces of wood. On most turns, you draw 2 cards from the Trials deck and choose one of those cards to fight. There are a couple different elements on the cards that would affect which one you decide to fight against, and I'll try to go over those as I discuss the different elements of each card. But let's say that I'm going to choose this Further Exploring the Island card. The card that I don't choose gets discarded. And you'll notice that there are 3 different values on the right-hand side of this card. And that corresponds with the 3 different levels of the trial deck. So you start out at the green level, and then you progress to the yellow, and then to the red level. So if this is the first turn of the game, I have to have 2 fight value against this card to win. So this white text box to the left of the card gives me 3 free cards to draw. So I'm allowed to draw up to that number. I don't have to draw the full 3, and I can do it one at a time. So I draw the first card from my deck, and one thing that's interesting about your deck of cards is that a lot of these cards are not very good. A lot of them are downright bad. So this card has a -1 fight value, and to beat this card, I'm looking for a 2 or higher. So I play free cards to the left of the card that I'm fighting. I'm going to go ahead and draw another because I'm allowed to draw up to 3. This one doesn't give me any fight value. It does have an ability that I can use to gain 2 life, and if I want to use that ability, I will just turn that card sideways, and I will add 2 tokens to my health pool. And if there was an attack value on this card, it would still remain active. It would still contribute even when I turn it sideways to use that value. I'm still not up to the 2 strength that I'm supposed to have to beat this card, so I'm going to draw 1 more. And this card contributes 2. So combined with the one that gives me -1, I have 1 fight value. And I have a couple different options here. I could just kind of accept my defeat, and when that happens, if you lose to a card, you lose life points equal to the strength that you're lacking to beat the card. So I would lose 1 life point because I was 1 short of getting the target number. And if I do that, if I decide, okay, I'm going to lose to this card, and I'm going to lose a life point as well, I can use that life point that I lose to get rid of one of these cards. There's when you add the aging cards into your deck, they're more expensive to get rid of, but this 1 health logo in the upper right hand corner, that means that when I lose a life because of losing to a card, I can get rid of one of these cards. So maybe this distracted card, I would say, okay, I'm just going to lose the life. I don't beat this card, but I get to remove this distracted card from my game. And then the trial card that I did not succeed in beating would be discarded, and I would place these cards that I used to fight, I would place them in my deck discard pile. And then I would do the same thing again with 2 new trial cards. If we rewind though and go back to the moment where I've drawn 3 cards and I still don't have fight value that meets or exceeds the green level on this card, the other option I have is to spend life points to draw additional cards. So I used the term free cards. That's cards that the trial allows you to draw, but I'm allowed to spend life points to draw additional cards from my deck. So if I spend 1 life point, I can draw another card. This card goes to the right of the trial, and this contributes 1 additional fight value, which means that I now have a total of 2, which is enough to beat this card. Now, if it wasn't and I wanted to keep drawing cards, I would still be able to spend additional life points and draw more cards. But since I have enough fight value to beat this card, what happens is I get to add it to my deck. So I flip it to its other side where when I play this later on in the game, it's going to be worth 2 fight value for me, and it has an ability that I can use to gain 1 life. So what happens is I take this card in addition to all of the cards that I used to fight against that trial, and they all go to my deck discard pile. Now, you'll notice that when I lost to the trial, I was able to spend life to get rid of my bad cards. When you win against a trial, you get to add that trial to your deck, but you're still stuck with the cards that kind of work against you later on in the game. So that goes to my discard pile, and those cards won't be used again until I've exhausted all of the cards in this deck. Now again, once you reach the point where you have drawn all of the cards in this deck, you grab one of these aging cards, and you don't get to look at it, but you shuffle it in with all of the other cards in your deck. And these cards, they have effects on them that work against you. So this one makes your highest value fight card a 0. And there are other cards that you can use to kind of negate these effects. And if you lose against a trial card, if you have to spend 2 life, if you lose 2 life as a result of losing against a trial, you can get rid of these as well. But over the course of the game, you're just trying to add good cards to your deck and get rid of the weak cards in your deck. And there's a lot of weak cards. So your life, if you run out of health points, you die, but also you kind of use this as a currency, and it's beneficial, especially in the early game, to lose life points so that you can get rid of the weaker cards in your deck. When you've gone through all of the trials in this pile, you take all of the trial cards that you've discarded along the way, you shuffle those back up, and then you enter the second level of trials, which is the yellow level. So at that point, when you draw 2 trials and choose one to fight against, you'll be looking at the yellow value. And then of course later on, the same thing happens when you move to the red level and you're looking at the red value. So when you choose a card to fight against, no matter where you are in the game, the things that you have to consider are how many cards that trial allows you to draw, the strength required to beat that trial, and then it's also worth taking a look at the abilities and fight value that card would contribute to your deck if you beat that trial. After you make it through the 3rd level, the red level of trials, you have to fight 2 pirate ship cards. And these basically function as mega trial cards. They still allow you to draw cards for free. They have a fight value that you're looking for. Some of them also have like a text modifier that makes them more difficult. So this one, I get to draw 7 cards. I am looking for 16 fight value, and when I want to draw additional cards by spending health points, I have to spend 2 per card I draw instead of the normal 1 per card I draw. And if I am able to beat both of these pirate ship cards, I win the game. Friday is definitely one of the more widely known solo games on the market today, and I think there are a few good reasons for that. For one, the game is very accessible. It's super easy to learn, it plays quickly, and the decisions are pretty engaging. I didn't really get to go into it, but the special actions on the cards are probably my favorite part of the game. There's a lot of actions that allow you to draw additional cards. There are actions that give you more life. There are actions that cancel out the effects of the aging cards that drag you down. And so there's a lot of cool stuff. You can set up some really cool action chains or combos while you're trying to acquire new cards for your deck. I do find that some of the decisions that you get to make in the game, while they're interesting, they start to feel the same. You kind of do the same thing over and over again. You know, you have to evaluate, is it worth losing life to draw another card, or is it worth accepting that I'm not going to beat this card and then trying to spend some of my points to get some of the weaker cards out of my deck. The decisions themselves are pretty interesting to make, but you do the same thing over and over. And, you know, it's not a long game, so it doesn't really get tiresome, but it kind of, if you play the game a lot, then those decisions might start to feel very static. I do think that Friday deserves a lot of credit for being one of the earliest small box solo games. You know, it's kind of started a trend, and we see a lot more of those games on the market today. Unfortunately, I don't play Friday very much these days because there are so many other great games in a solo box, small box, that take a similar amount of time. And the Oniverse games in particular, I think, outshine Friday in a lot of ways. Because they're in a similar box size, they're in a similar price range, and I just like the decisions that those games present me with a little bit more than in Friday. But if you're at all interested in Friday, I still think it's a game that's worth your attention, and especially for those that are just diving into the world of solo gaming, this is a great place to start. Check it out.